Good morning and welcome to all of you.
Good morning.
I'm just enjoying looking at you. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster's outside spring equinox Sunday morning service on March 20th. We are gathered here outside under nature's cathedral, the beautiful trees that are just about ready to wake up. Some of them already are. And some of them have been awake all winter long too. I'm so happy to see all of you, and hello to those of you watching from the cars. We see you too. We are here to rediscover and awaken our connection with each other, with the earth, with the cycles of the season, with this planet that we are not separate but integrally a part of, all of us. We are here as a gathered congregation, a welcoming people, a people here to celebrate and to turn our attention to what is most important in this life, in this world. We are the UU Church of Lancaster, and our mission is come, nourish the spirit, connect in love, and act for justice. That is what we set our hearts to do. That is what we set our intentions towards this morning as well. Whether you are here because you ground yourself spiritually in the cycles of the seasons, whether the earth is your most sacred connection, whether you find connection and meaning and purpose and exploration of the ancient themes of divinity or the stories that have existed for centuries that many religious groups use to understand the world, whether you are Christian or Jewish or pagan or Muslim, atheist, agnostic, not quite sure whether I left you out of that list and you're saying, what about me? Whether you believe in science, or whether you're just content to let the great mystery be, we are glad you are here. No matter where you are from, no matter who you love, no matter how you understand and express gender in your perfectly imperfect body, no matter how you move about this earth, no matter whether you come here with a broken or a hopeful heart this morning, whether you wish it were a little bit sunnier, or whether you're comfortable with this temperature, we're glad to see you. Reverend Israel, for those of you, I'm the minister of this congregation. I use he, him for pronouns because I think there's at least a couple of people here that I've never met before, so that's who I am. Nice to meet you.
I'm glad you said that. And my name is Lenore Bajare-Dukes, and for those of you who I haven't met before also, it's wonderful to meet you or to meet you in person. My pronouns are she and her, and I serve this congregation as your Director of Lifespan Faith Development. And it's so good to be together. And as we're talking in the month of March about our Soul Matters theme, renewing faith, one thing I'd really like to renew is our sense of connection with our bodies and with this earth. And we're going to be doing a lot of that today. And for those, perhaps a special welcome to children, but also for anybody who worships better when you've got your whole body engaged, especially your hands, right? We have this section of tables, these tables here stretching over to the smaller tables over there for hands-on exploration, and I'll be adding some elements to worship with our hands during our time here. So a warm welcome to that space, the hands-on space as well, for anyone who needs it.
Feel free to get up and move around too, I don't mind. And feel free to make noise and to respond, to cry if you need to laugh, to sing when we sing, and move as you need to move. Those are the things that make us come alive, I think, when we engage with all of what we got.
Heather Gehron-Rice. I'm one of the facilitators for Web and Wheel, which is our church's earth-centered and pagan spirituality group. And as we light our chalice today, we're asking Eli if he would lead us in the song, Rise Up, O Flame.
As stated before, if you want to sing along, just be wary of masks when you're around people who aren't in your pod, but feel free to sing along with me. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
So as we come into this hour, give or take a few minutes of worship that we are going to spend together, where we turn our attention to what is most important in this life, I invite you all to take a few moments now to ground yourself and allow yourself to arrive in this sacred space of intentionality that we call worship. I have a brief reflection for you, and I invite you to kind of picture this in your mind and feel it in your body, and then Lenore will lead us in a brief reflection on the seasons, the cycles of the seasons that we're in. We're here, like I said, to turn our attention to the earth and our connection to it, to remind ourselves that we are not separate from nature, but a part of it. We talk often about nature as if it were something that existed outside of our own selves, outside of our own bodies. But nature really is everything. You, my friends, are nature. Nature is everything from the beautiful sprouts on the trees, blossoms on the trees. It is your hopes and dreams for our future together. The cosmos, the universe that we live in, is a nuclear reactor that creates and contains everything that ever was and will be. So you, my friends, this morning, I remind you to imagine now and know yourselves as nature, waking up and becoming aware of itself. Nature, the voice of nature that exists in all of us, reminding us of the pain and beauty of this world. That is the gift of our consciousness. It is nature expressing and knowing itself out loud. You are the most natural thing there is. So feel your roots as we go deeper into this service, going deeper down into this earth, into the soil, reminding you that you cannot disconnect yourself from nature, because you are nature.
And as you continue to feel that sense of rootedness, perhaps your feet planted upon concrete or dirt, grass, I invite you to slowly turn your senses and your awareness outward to the air that is flowing across your face. Can you hear it? To voices and sounds carried on the air. The chill of winter and the slight hint of warmth that promises the spring to come. Can you smell it? We tune our senses to the water that's flowing in the river behind us and the groundwater that flows beneath our feet. That connects us to the snow that has been falling just recently, melting into the rains that nourish this ground. Perhaps you have mud still on your feet from your trek here. The spring rains starting to move the earth, prepare the soil for the shoots of seeds to press their way up toward the sun, the mud of spring. And perhaps as you came in this morning, you were warmed by the warmth of the sun, the greatest fire at the hearth of this earth. We welcome the balance brought by the sun and the earth's relationship at the time of equinox, the balance between the day and the night. And we find a sense of that balance not outside of movement, but in the sense of that movement between the seasons and as our earth turns and as we move one more circle around the sun.
So when in earth traditions we gather, we cast a circle to set aside a space as sacred. And that doesn't mean you have to agree with it. That just means you're part of our group this morning and you're part of our sacred space. So as I cast the circle, just be here and hear the sound of the bell and imagine the circle around us, enveloping all of us, and that we are together. The circle is cast. We are between the worlds, and what happens between the worlds affects all the worlds.
In much of the earth-based spirituality that our Web and Wheel group practices, the tradition is to call the directions, invite the directions of the earth into the circle. Would you say, Heather? Yes. As we do this kind of ritual. So we are going to also do that now. I just wanted to say that so much of Western religion invites people to see themselves as separate, like I said, from the earth and made in the image, rather, of some divine figure. But in earth-based spiritual practices, we see ourselves, we are invited to see ourselves. Not necessarily just as made in the image of some divine figure, but made in the image of the earth itself, which is the most divine thing we could find, perhaps. So we call upon the directions and their associated elements to remind us of the natural world that is all around us, that helps us to understand and make meaning of our lives. Each direction is associated with an element of the natural world. And it represents for us some part of our human nature as well. So we invite these directions to join us here today in this space now. And we begin with the east. And I invite you to, if you wish, you are invited to stand and face the direction of east, which is that way, that corner. East, representing air, the element of air, the place of birds in flight, owls, hawks, reminding us of the great perspective that we must have in life when we are flying high above in the air. Direction of the rising sun. Air gives us life and breath, inspiration, calls to mind imagination, creativity, as our hopes and dreams take flight. I now invite you to face the south towards me, represented by the element of fire, calling to mind powerful animals such as lions and coyotes, but also animals that represent change and transformation, such as the beautiful, humble butterfly. Direction of warmer lands, fire, heat, reminding us of passion, danger. Fire ultimately brings to mind for us transformation and the need for action, growth, and change. We welcome the spirit of the South with us now. I invite you to turn towards the west, following in the direction. Turning. West brings to mind the element of water, reminding us of whales, animals that swim in the deep, mysterious, and beautiful oceans, reminding us of life always flowing, and also life that is turbulent sometimes, but ongoing, complex, and deep. The spirit of the West we invite now to remind ourselves to seek the deep wisdom that comes from deep down below. Just trying to get the candle lit here for a moment. I invite you to turn and face the north. The north represents the element of the earth, the place where we are grounded, reminding us of the deep wisdom that crawls everywhere like the insects. Element of stability and nurturing, holding and supporting, the place where we are grounded, solid, still, and connected to all. We welcome the spirit of the north now into our presence. We see ourselves as connected to all things on this earth through the welcoming of these four elements. You may be seated. To bring yourselves to the center. As we sing together, the words are the earth, the air, the fire, the water, return. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. Aye, 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 oh, aye, oh, aye, oh, aye, oh. Aye, 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 oh, aye, oh, aye, oh, aye, oh. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. Aye, 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 oh, aye, oh, aye, oh, aye, oh. Aye, 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 oh, aye, oh, aye, oh. Feel yourselves returning on this morning, my friends, to the earth. The spring equinox will occur at about 11:33 this morning, shortly after we finish up with our service here today, when light and dark are about equal in the sky, give or take a couple of minutes. This moment of the equinox comes not just because things are thawing and preparing themselves to bloom, to emerge from their deep slumber of winter. Not just because of those things, but because the earth is forever turning on its axis and cannot be stopped. We too, my friends, this morning are emerging from our pandemic time. Even if it is not quite finished, we are emerging, we are singing together for the first time. We are blooming together, my friends, this morning. And from your individual lives, perhaps, you see yourselves beginning to emerge if you are ready. Or perhaps not. Perhaps you need some more time. Our congregation has firm plans now for when it will return to its time in our building, which is pretty incredible. We are, all of us, together ready to plant some new seeds and to see ourselves emerge. We are ready to nurture them and water them and watch them grow. And so I ask you this morning to reflect as in our time together, what is emerging for you personally in your life? What seeds are you sowing and nurturing and watering and waiting for them to grow? What lives are you nurturing and loving and waiting for them to grow? What grand plans and hopes and dreams for your future, the future of our earth, the future of our community, our congregation? Needing to be cleared away to make space for new fruits. What brush no longer serves us that is in the way? What things that have died are we not ready to let go of yet? Must we use to let be the compost that feeds the new fruit that will come? What lessons must we learn from that have come before? The equinox is a moment of balance. Not perfect balance, because even at the equinox, the balance between the sun and the dark and the light is not perfect. The atmosphere actually accounts for some of that difference. It is the time between the seasons of dormancy and emergence. But like I said before, the cycle cannot be stopped, it keeps going. Seasons, this reflection on the cycle of the seasons, I say for us, reminds us to embrace change, to embrace our very nature as part of nature, that we cannot stop the earth from turning, we cannot stop the sun from moving in the sky. We cannot resist it because it's happening, and we are a part of it. We cannot stop the sun from traveling in its path. The earth, therefore, must be our grounding through this process. And it's not just moving forward, but it's also healing that we must embrace in this process. The earth teaches us that too. Lisa Thomas Adeyemo said this: everything, given time and nurturing, is moving towards balance and healing. The mushrooms that cleanse the land after nuclear trauma, the process of forest growth after a fire, the way our skin heals after a cut. Healing is organic, it is our birthright. Healing is the language of nature. We could pollute the earth as much as we want, but eventually it would heal itself. It may go on without us, it may no longer sustain us, but it would return itself to balance. Nature heals itself, and we do well to learn from those lessons. And so I offer some reflections this morning on the elements of nature for the spring equinox. First through earth, and then through fire, and then we will have some more as well. Reflections that remind us of growth and change, of letting go and springing forth. Reflection on what we need to cut free to encourage growth. Through the turning of the seasons, we go. As we enter into this new season, we know that it will never be the way it was before. Things can never be the way they were before. They may resemble the way they were before. They may carry elements of the way things were before, but they cannot be as they were before. The way things are is something that only we can create together now in this moment. And it will be something unique to this moment. Just like this day is unique to you today and cannot be like it was yesterday. So I offer one thought. Springtime is often one of the better times to prune a tree. I know there's someone here who might have some more to say about that, but that's okay. Maybe a few people. Spring is a good time to prune a tree, depending on the tree perhaps. And in the spring, often the wounds will heal faster because of when emergence is at hand, it does encourage growth and healing better than if we were to do it in the winter or the fall. If not without some scars, of course. But why prune a tree? Some do it for aesthetics, but with a fruit tree perhaps, you might prune the branches off the tree to encourage a stronger crop. Not to have as many apples, let's say, but to have better quality apples for what you do grow. To cut loose the things that prevent growth in a healthy way, or in a way that is more productive or more sweet, perhaps. So I ask us to think about ourselves in this time, like to ask what we are pruning from our collective trees and our individual trees. To think about how we want to cut loose the things that divert our energy from where it can be most impactful and meaningful and fruitful and sweet. Knowing that pruning can leave behind scars, marks, memories. But we don't just prune to encourage growth, but to encourage strategic growth. I think we're doing something similar together, I hope. Maybe in your work here in this congregation, you might be asking yourself what needs to be pruned out from what you have done before. Or maybe in your life, this time of reflection, the time of winter or the time of pandemic has asked you to think about that for yourself. What do you want to prune away so that you can encourage things to grow better for yourself? But we don't just prune our trees alone, either. We prune them together. Trees, of course, have their roots embedded deep down into the soil. And they often flow out and spread out and connect with one another, and that is what helps the trees to stand tall and to grow. And they're, of course, connected with networks of mycelium as well that feed their roots, that help them grow. And these things can span vast distances and support many trees. And networks of mycelium break down toxins in the soil as well that create healthy soils in symbiosis. So I ask us to think about ourselves, our community, our individual lives as trees planted in the soil too today. And if you think about it, soil really is everything. We might focus on the fruits that we grow in the soil, but the soil, if you think about it, is everything. It's where everything takes root. It's both the source of life and its resting place. And as we prepare to plant and to take root in our soil, which is really my metaphor for community today, we must think of the soil as the relationships that we cultivate together. Because that is where everything is planted. That is where everything matters most. We might seek to plant different seeds in our soil or prune our trees a certain way, but if our soil is not healthy, things will not grow. To plant anything, we must tend healthy soil. And two, we have to know that not all of the seeds we plant will take root. And that's okay. But as long as we are cultivating a healthy soil, healthy relationships with each other, the work is worth it. because we are tending something that will be there for future generations. We are not just tending our own garden plot for ourselves today. That is what the earth teaches us, I hope, in this growing season on this day. And lastly, I ask us to think about this in terms of fire as well. Fire on this chilly day reminding us of the warmth of community. But fire also can feed our soil as well. Because ash is very good for soil. And fire, not to think about fire, I invite you today as an act of destruction, but an act of transformation. How do we transform something into something new that can feed our relationships and feed what we are growing together? Destruction, not destruction, but transformation. Not for destruction or anger or frustration or hate, but for love. Transforming ourselves for love. For our visions of a better future together. For renewal and for growth. And so the kind of transformation that we are talking about is not about getting rid of people or things, but about transforming the ways we relate to one another ultimately. Because we have to work with what we have in our lives and in our community. And we need all of us to make it work. And so the most important thing we have to focus on is how we relate to one another. So that is ultimately what I hope for us to understand.
We invite you to understand that with your hands and your senses, if you choose. One second. So we've brought a bowl of earth from the congregation, from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster soil, from the grounds. And this bowl of earth, we are going to mingle in some of the pots and the bowls over there. And then we have some sunflower seeds that we are going to plant in that earth after worship service. And let them grow, and then they will grow along the wall of UUCL. So we're going to invite you, if you brought some earth or some compost, now is your chance to get it out and mingle it together. Yeah, I think that's it.
And we're going to give you some time so that you can do two activities and have some time and space. When we talk about burning things and pruning, there are things that scare us and terrify us that we're ready to let go of, some that we're not quite ready to let go of. So over on the end of the table are bay leaves and some markers, and you're invited to write on that bay leaf anything that you're ready to let go of. We're having trouble getting the cauldron burning, but they will be burnt, and then those ashes will at some point be put into the soil to help nourish it with those things that we've let go of. So at this point, you're invited to get up. The soil mixing will be back in that corner, and the fire is over at this corner.
Everybody, you're invited, if you want to come use those same tools to come get some of the dirt from here and to mix it with some of the other dirt that we're mixing. So put ours in there, and you can put yours in here or over there. We're just going to mix it all up.
Willow Valley joins UUCL.
Beautiful.
Sit in. Here's another part.
This next part is a special invitation to any children who are here to participate in this next part. Any kids who are here. And to anybody who remembers being a kid. There's one. We invite you into a time of imagination. And I think you'll know when the time is right to join in.
Inch by inch, row by row, gotta make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of little ground.
Inch by inch, row by row, that's the seeds I sow. Someone warm them from below till the rain comes tumbling down.
Place the seeds and begin the sows, and see the trees grow. Feel the leaves grow my own, time goes ahead of
For rain, sun, and rain, by my day in nature's chain. To my body and my brain, to the music of the rain.
Feel free to sing along the chorus. You ready? 1, 2, ready, and inch by inch, row by row.
It's hard to grow. All it takes is a piece of ground.
Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warm them from below till the rain comes tumbling down. Good job.
Plant your rows straight and long, temper them with prayer and song. Mother Earth will make you strong if you give her love and care.
Old girl watching hungrily, probably spiritually on the tree. In my garden I'm as free as a feathered leaf up there. Last time, ready? Inch by inch, row by row, gotta make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of little ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone plants the seeds I sow. Someone waters from below, the rain comes tumbling down.
Someone warm them from below till the rain comes tumbling down.
So continuing with our garden metaphor, you don't just go out and start putting seeds in the ground. You have to take some time and you have to stop and you have to think about what you want to grow. Do you want sunflowers? Do you want to plant tomatoes? And if you plant the tomatoes, do you want to prune them so that you end up with other stuff, or do you want to just let them all grow and only have tomatoes? What do you want? Do you want peppers? Do you not like peppers? Do you want to plant corn, or do you know it's easy to buy corn in this area? So there's a lot of thinking that has to go into what you're going to put in your garden. And that's kind of also how life is. You have to think about what you want. We have to think about how we want to be, who we want to be. And so right now, I'd like you to take just a couple of moments to think about that. What do we want to harvest from our collective garden? What do you want to harvest from your garden?
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. I breathe out. I breathe out jolt when I breathe in. I breathe peace when I breathe out. I breathe out jolt. Breathe in. I breathe in peace when I breathe out. I breathe out jolt. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out jolt. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
So living here in foreign country, we know that just because you plant something, it's not always going to grow. There'll be a storm, it'll flood, some crops die off, the bugs come along. And then I want to just shift to a stream metaphor for a bit. Because, if you watch a stream, the water finds a way around. A tree falls in, the water finds a way around. The rocks fall in, water finds a way around. Unexpected things happen, and we find a way forward. Always. The water always finds a way through. You just have to think about the Grand Canyon, all these beautiful things that were created by water. Because water will always, always find a way forward.
My life flows on in endless song. Again, feel free to sing along as you feel comfortable. My life flows on in endless song above its lamentation. I hear the real, though far off that hails a new creation through all the tumult and the strife. Hear the music ringing, it sounds an echo in my soul. How can I from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know that truth lives. What though the darkness round me pours? No storm can shake my inmost songs, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing?
tyrants tremble as they hear bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near. How can I keep from singing to prison cell and country? Our thoughts to them are winging, when friends like shame are undefined. How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing?
We have spent this time together reflecting on the elements and allowing them to show us the ways that we are connected to the cycles and seasons of growth and transformation of this earth. And now we thank them for their time with us, and we release them, beginning with the elements with the direction of north, represented by the element of earth. We release it and ask that it may help us all to feel and know ourselves as grounded deeply in this earth. We release and give thanks to the direction of west. Follow Heather if you. Represented by the element of water, we thank it. And we ask that it may always help us to feel truly nourished and refreshed and ever flowing. We release the south, represented by the element of fire. We thank it and we ask it to always help us be transforming. And we release the direction of east, represented by the element of air. We thank it and we ask that it may always carry our hopes and dreams on the wings and on the wind. We thank it. And we release ourselves from the center as well and open our circle.
If you know this one, join in. By the earth that is her body, by the air that is her breath, by the fire of her bright spirit, by the waters of her living womb. The circle is open, but unbroken. Mary meet, and Mary part, and Mary together.
The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. Aye, 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 oh, aye, oh, aye, oh, aye, oh. Aye, 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 oh, aye, oh, aye, oh, aye, oh. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. Aye, 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 oh, aye, oh, aye, oh, aye, oh. Aye, 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 oh, aye, oh.
Israel is going to extinguish the chalice, but not the flame. We're going to carry that within our hearts as we go throughout this week. And finally, you'll see on the table, there are some little bubble containers. Those thoughts and ideas that you had earlier of what you want to bring in, at this point, I would ask you, face out, not under here, and blow some bubbles and send those intentions out into the world.
And while everyone's blowing their bubbles and their intentions out in the world, we'd like to take an offering as an outward expression of our interdependence. And you can support our work by going to the Contribute or Giving tab on our website at UUCL online. I also have a bowl here. I'll be walking around, and we share half of our offering this month with Acorn Acres. which is an organization that cares for sick and disabled animals until they can be released back into their natural habitat. So please give as generously as you can. Thank you.
We invite you to stay and
Go ahead.
stay and there we go. Okay, stay. We invite you to stay, have some conversation, talk about the themes of the service today, and also enjoy some commentation that are on the table there.
Yes, the Hamantaschen are in honor of Purim. There's a story about the fundraiser. We purchased them for today to honor, as a fundraiser to go toward helping Ukrainian refugees right now with some resonance of the story of the Jewish holiday of Purim. And if you want to know more about that, there's explanations. And we have several people who have generously brought homemade treats for us, so we can have those over there. And then anybody who's willing to help plant sunflower seeds for the church garden, meet me right in that corner.